Hey, in this video, I'm going to look at 5 of the top company YouTube channels in the world. I'm going to break down why they're successful, and I'm going to tell you what you can learn from them. We're not just going to judge these YouTube channels on the number of views they have or the number of subscribers. We're also going to look a little bit deeper to see what kind of impact they have on the company as a whole and how the channel fits into the company's funnel and their broader marketing mix. Because as we'll see, when you have a YouTube channel at a company, it's about a whole lot more than just views and subscribers. So first up, let's look at the criteria that we're measuring these channels on. So if we go to the Miro board, we have 4 different criteria. We have reach and engagement, strategy and consistency, full funnel formats, and marketing mix. So what do each of these criteria mean? Well, for reach and engagement, it's pretty simple. We're talking about the size of the subscriber base. We're talking about the number of views that the videos have. And we're talking about the consistency with which these videos get views. So is it the case that they have a couple of videos that have millions and millions of views and all the other views just have a couple of thousand? Or are they consistently releasing big hitters? Also, a factor we're throwing in here is, yes, Red Bull might have millions and millions of views, but they also have millions and millions of euros to spend on their channel. What about those smaller companies that have really scaled the company along with their YouTube channel? So we have a few examples of small companies that have successfully scaled with YouTube, and we have a couple of examples of larger, more established companies as well. Next up is strategy and consistency. So is the company just opportunistic? Are they just chasing a few search terms and that's where the success comes from? Or is there some real thought behind the strategy? And generally, if you see some real thought behind the strategy, you'll see an engaged audience as well. So those 2 first criteria are fairly connected. The third criterion is full funnel formats. And this basically relates to, firstly, the kind of content that they're producing. Are they producing that top of the funnel, long form, awareness driving content, and also that lower funnel kind of product review, testimonial content, just to push people down the funnel? And also, are they really using YouTube to its full potential in terms of the formats that are available to them? So are they doing shorts? Are they doing lives? Are they doing podcasts? Are they doing vlogs? Are they doing long forms? All those kinds of things. How are they juggling those different formats in order to address different user types or users at different stages of the funnel? And then finally, we have the marketing mix integration. So this maybe sounds like a bit of a fancy term. All it means is, how does this YouTube channel fit into the broader marketing team and the broader mix of channels that this company is using? Are they just like a one-channel company where they have one channel with deep expertise and they're using that to market their entire company? Or do they really have a mature mix of different channels? So do they have a good amount of organic search? Do they have a mature approach to Google search or to paid social, for example? So we're also going to look at that as well. And finally, after we've looked at those different criteria, we're going to look at 3 different takeaways, 3 different things that you can learn from each of those companies. So on the board on the left-hand side here, we have quite a few different companies that are really excelling on YouTube. And again, these are companies from all sorts of different domains and all sorts of different degrees of kind of maturity. You have some companies that are just kind of 20, 30, 40 people that have really scaled thanks to their efforts on YouTube. And you have other companies down here, like the honorable mentions like Red Bull or Liverpool Football Club, who have the money to invest in a really kind of elaborate media strategy. And you can definitely learn a lot from both. But like I said, I wanted to give a little bit more focus and attention to a few of those companies that have scaled with YouTube. And one of the first ones is Honeypot. Now, Honeypot is a recruiting company for developers, and it's an example of a company that scaled really intelligently on YouTube. So let's take a look at what they did. So you see on the Honeypot channel page, they've got 216,000 subscribers, just 114 videos, which is actually a relatively small number of videos for that number of subscribers. And the reason that they have a relatively small number of videos per subscriber is because they've gone really deep on super high production quality, long form documentaries. And in order to build credibility within the developer community, they've basically made documentaries about different coding languages where they speak to all the people that were behind the kind of invention or the development of those coding languages. And if we take the example of their latest release, this is all about Node.js. So as far as I know, a JavaScript coding language or library. And just in 2 weeks, this has gained 321,000 views. It's one of their top performing videos of all time, and has also driven a real increase in the number of subscribers as well. So I saw a LinkedIn post from one of the people behind this video, and it was driving something like 20K subscribers over the first couple of weeks that it had been released. And if you look through to this video, it's, as I said, super high quality. They've really managed to identify all the top people behind this particular coding language. And it just goes to show for me that whereas we always talk about the importance of frequency when it comes to YouTube releases and scaling a channel, and it's once every week, for example, you can also take quite a different approach where you really focus on quality, less frequent releases, and still achieve a really good result with the YouTube channel. So if I had to rate this channel in terms of reach and engagement and in terms of strategy and consistency, I'd rate it pretty high, considering that they don't have many resources as a small company to invest in the channel. And the strategy and consistency, then you can see some real thought behind what's going on here, that they've actually, where most people go left and they go for this high frequency delivery of a video a week, they've kind of gone right and said, no, we're going to really go deep and we're going to develop these documentaries and we're going to use these documentaries to really build brand credibility. And I think this is a super interesting approach, and it's amazing that it's been successful for them because it's not the standard approach. I think there are a couple of other channels out there like North Face that have taken a similar kind of approach and also have beautiful documentaries there, but not even they have had this kind of impact that Honeypot has had with, to be honest, probably a budget that's many, many times smaller. And I think one insight that I learned about Honeypot as well is that these documentaries had become so good that they even had companies coming to them willing to pay them in order to cover coding languages like React that were in some way related to Facebook, for example. So it actually kind of potentially was becoming a revenue stream in its own right as well. So when we talk about the full funnel formats and also how it fits into the marketing mix, actually you can see they haven't really done much on the shorts side. They have potentially a podcast, and they've never done any lives whatsoever. And so here they've really gone deep on these long form. And I think there's probably quite a lot more that they could have done with shorts and with lives, for example, particularly with shorts in order to promote the documentaries. And also from the documentaries, they have so many clips with all these kind of eminent developers and stuff that they could really use to build their credibility through shorts and really drive awareness a lot, probably at very, very little cost in terms of time or finances. Also, when you look at their content, you don't really see too much of an organic funnel. Like, what's the obvious next step for someone that's watched this documentary? Yes, they think Honeypot, maybe at the back of their mind, maybe at the front of mind, is this super credible, fantastic recruiting company aimed at developers. Maybe they have that space as a brand in the developer's mind or the potential client's mind. But it's not really obvious what the person should do next. Should they sign up to the platform? What do they get if they sign up for the platform? All those kinds of things that would encourage an obvious next step would create that data point that you could attribute to that video and decide that it's been successful or not successful beyond those kind of top of the funnel metrics. I don't really see any of that. And then when I look around other social platforms like Instagram, I don't see too much of a following there. And I don't see much strategy, especially compared to where YouTube is. When we jump over to SimilarWeb, so this is a tool just to get a complete picture of all the different kind of sources of traffic that a website has. So basically a way of seeing their marketing mix. Then you can see that a lot of their traffic is coming through the organic channels or through the direct channels. Not much is going through performance marketing. We can also see in the Facebook ad library, they just have a couple of ads running at the moment, so not much happening on the performance marketing side. And when you scroll down, you can see that a large volume of their traffic, about 30%, is coming from YouTube. Also, LinkedIn, Reddit, etc. is also performing pretty well. I'm guessing Reddit is probably from actually these documentaries being posted and discussed by those developer communities on Reddit as well. So what I'd imagine is that this marketing strategy is very much kind of YouTube-led with these documentaries, and then you're seeing this kind of echo effect across the other social channels from these long-form documentaries. But definitely super interesting case study. When I talk about what we can learn, just to summarize what we can learn from this content, then firstly, high-quality pillar content can really work, even if it's not produced very frequently. So you can do that once a month release. But if you do that once a month release, it has to be something that's really high quality, something that people really look forward to, people that subscribe to your channel for, and it's almost like a Netflix Stranger Things release or something like that. So it's really high quality. The other thing is that you can bring in these famous faces, even if it's just for 60 seconds or a 3-minute chat or something, and this can really build credibility through association with your channel, and that's something that we're going to touch on repeatedly through this video. And finally, This is more of a brand play, so it's not so much of a performance play. But still, I would ask myself, what can we do with this content in order to be able to drive a more obvious next step for the viewer as well? Okay, and now we're going to move on to the next company, and this company is CareerFoundry. Now this disclaimer is the company that I was CMO at, but there's a good reason that I've included this company, and this is because it's one of the few companies that scaled with YouTube as a channel that was really fundamental to their growth, and they did it on a budget, so with very little investment. So when you look, again, at companies like Red Bull, these kind of super strong media companies that are definitely an inspiration, as I said, they have huge budgets in order to invest, huge production budgets in order to invest here. Same with GoPro, for example. With CareerFoundry, then it was really all about doing it in a kind of scrappy sense with people in the office, buying equipment when we could afford it, etc. So if we look at CareerFoundry and we go to their channel, then we can see that they have 246,000 subscribers, so a little bit more than Honeypot. 371 videos, which suggests a lower strike rate, and that's completely understandable considering the strategy here. So when you look at the videos and you sort for the most popular videos, you see immediately that what is data analytics, a beginner's guide to the data analytics process, that this is very much search focused. So these videos initially were all about covering the high volume search terms and really trying to ring-fence those search terms, and also using the blog as a lot of inspiration so that those two channels, those two organic channels, could really scale in unison. And you see that with the top videos. You also see the same kind of faces popping up over and over again as we built these kind of personas within the channel. And then you see a few other videos popping up that are much more built to kind of surf on the trends of what was working in the creator community in these areas. So how I'd learn data analytics in 2024 if I had to start over, or don't become a data analyst if ... So these are less oriented towards search and more oriented towards appearing in those browse features like on your homepage when you hit YouTube. And then if you have these two sources of browse features and suggested videos and also traffic from YouTube search, then you have a really strong foundation for the channel to grow and compound over time. Okay, so if I'm gonna measure CareerFoundry on reach and engagement, strategy and consistency, then I'd say relatively good, but not as good as it could be. So why do I say that? If you look at the channel, then you can see the latest videos have got a lower number of views than those ones that I just showed you with sorted by most popular. It's kind of obvious, but you can see a pretty big discrepancy. And that's partly because you have a lot of different topics covered in these videos. You have machine learning and data analytics, which are relatively related, but then you also have things like product design, UX design. You have a mixture of testimonials and top of the funnel content. So really like quite a mixture of formats and also topics covered. And so it's very difficult when you have that kind of variety to really build an engaged audience, because you make one piece of content about one thing, which is great, that satisfies one group, and then you make another bit of content about something quite different, which then alienates that group. So here you have quite a scattering of that focus, so to speak. Yeah, and for that reason, then you don't have this kind of retention of subscribers in terms of returning views that you have for other channels that we're going to look at. On the flip side, because it very much is a flip side, then one of the things that CareerFoundry was always very good at is using multi-formats. So having a lot of short form content around the videos, the long form videos that are being produced, but also really specific short form content filmed exactly for or specifically for purpose. And also they have a very developed online events channel, which streams to multiple different social platforms, one of which is YouTube. So you can see, compared to a lot of the other companies we've looked at and are going to look at, they have a ton of live content, which is really kind of fundamental to pushing people down the funnel and getting them to that purchase moment, getting them onto a call with a sales team, for example. And finally, the marketing mix integration. So this is another reason why CareerFoundry is quite interesting, because if you jump over to SimilarWeb, you see a really high volume of traffic identified by SimilarWeb. Also really good quality traffic, good session times, all those kinds of things, low bounce rates. And if you scroll down, you can see that it's overwhelmingly driven by organic traffic. But if you go to the Facebook ad library, you can see that there's really quite a mature performance marketing strategy that's been rolled out across Meta and pretty much the same thing across Google as well. And if you look down at the kind of mix of different social channels, if you go to the Instagram, it's like 76,000 followers there, so pretty large. And then also across the social channels, you can really see that even though you have fairly established presence across all the different channels, it's really YouTube which is driving the majority of the traffic. And as we'll see with the next examples, it's very, very often the case that YouTube is the biggest referrer of the social channels and often drives the highest quality traffic as well. So moving on to the next channel, we have Ahrefs. Now, Ahrefs is the biggest of the ones that we've looked at so far, whereas Honeypot has 14K daily views, CareerFoundry has 8,000. Ahrefs is up there at 17,000. Ahrefs is a tool that I use very often to analyze different sites' SEO performance, so how much organic traffic they're getting, what kind of keywords they're ranking for, all those kinds of things, much like SEMrush. And they have a really developed YouTube channel. So we look over at their channel, you can see that they have over 500,000 subscribers, just under 300 videos, and they also have a really strong hit rate on all of their latest videos. So you can see all of them, even though they've just been up for a couple of months, comfortably bringing in over 50K views. And what's interesting about them, I think, is that they started much in the same place as CareerFoundry, really focusing on those search terms, really driving that search traffic. And it's another example of a channel that's really kind of pivoted towards more storytelling in order to find their place within the browse features on people's homepages, getting recommended, really standing out to people so that they get those clicks from suggested videos and from the homepage. And that seems to be serving them very well because the channel is growing really quite quickly. So in terms of reach and engagement and in terms of strategy and consistency, I'd say this is the highest ranked channel so far because they've managed to make that pivot to that kind of catchy title and then being able to produce content that really lives up to that catchy title as well. And then also in terms of the reach and engagement, then you see this real, as I mentioned before, really kind of consistent hit rate with all their most recent videos. And they have those standout videos like this one, I tried to rank #1 on Google in 24 hours to prove a point. Yeah, very much storytelling, challenge-based, and obviously very, very successful with almost 300,000 views in the first 5 months. So if we move to the next criterion, the full funnel formats, and also if we look at marketing mix integration, then if we check one of their videos, you can see actually there's not much going on in terms of chaptering, which isn't great for distribution, and they're not really pushing anyone very kind of obviously and explicitly anywhere to the product. So they're not really connecting the content that they're making in their videos to different points within the product. And there kind of feels potentially like a bit more like a brand play, but also feels like they're missing out on an opportunity to do that, especially with a digital first product. It would be pretty easy, one would think, to take people to free courses or to free versions of their product to really get people kind of onboarded and using the product as well. And then if we look at the marketing mix for Ahrefs, then you can see there's a lot of traffic coming in. I mean, you'd expect, maybe if we start just over here, actually looking at Ahrefs with Ahrefs, just to get pretty meta. They have a lot of traffic coming in organically. So 4 million monthly visits. And you see this real kind of peak fairly recently in traffic as well. So very, very strong on the organic search side, very strong on YouTube. So very strong organically. You can probably see that reflected if we look at Ahrefs here, which again, of the social channels, actually performing surprisingly well across all the socials and Facebook in particular. It's relatively rare that you see such good referrals there, but still the biggest referrer by far is YouTube with 45% of total social or referral traffic coming in from there. So coupled up with that organic marketing on YouTube and SEO, they also have a pretty established performance marketing strategy. You see a ton of different ads running across Meta at the moment. And this is always good to see because you do have some companies, and I would have probably been a bit kind of biased towards thinking this for Ahrefs, that are so good organically that then they say, we don't really need to run any paid strategies. And for me, this never really makes sense because you can run paid strategies profitably as well. And if you have such a strong organic strategy, you can probably afford to invest a fair amount in your paid strategies to really kind of accelerate growth, the company's growth. Even if you have a very strong organic strategy, it's generally the paid marketing that's going to drive your brand awareness as well. So if you want to grow the company, don't just sit on your organic traffic and your organic channels, even if it's working very well. Really make sure that you're scaling your paid as well. So what are the things that we can learn from Ahrefs? Firstly, that they shifted really well from search to browse first content, really towards this storytelling content, and they're really reaping the benefits of having done that. Secondly, they're not as optimized towards the conversion as I believe that they could be. So really building a funnel for YouTube and for organic channels would really make sense as well here, much like Honeypot. And one thing that I noticed as well with the channel is that it's really, really focused on this long form content. And when you switch to shorts, virtually nothing, even though they've got a relatively good number of views on those first two shorts that they've released. And also when it comes to lives, so here you could imagine some really useful content around tutorials and things, live tutorials where beginners in SEO or SEO experts can kind of exchange and learn from one another. That could really build that brand sentiment, that sense of kind of gratitude towards the company for being taught things. That's completely non-existent. Which seems to be a shame considering they have so many experts in-house that could be sharing their knowledge live as well. Kings of the long form, for sure, kings of long form strategy, but more that they could do within those other areas, I think. So next up, the final two, we have two kind of behemoths of YouTube that are really killing it, have fantastic strategies and have incredible view rates as a consequence as well. So you can see with these two companies, with Nothing and Renaissance Periodization, or RP as I'm going to call it, which is a fitness app, they have a huge number of daily views. I mean, Nothing is 175,000, which is pretty extraordinary. That's kind of not far off probably what some of the other channels are getting on a monthly basis. They're getting on a daily basis. And then RP is almost 2 million views every single day, which is just extraordinary. And they have kind of similar strategies. RP is a fair bit more developed, has really gone all in on YouTube, but Nothing has also been really impressive in terms of the strategy that they've taken. So enough talking, let's look at the channels themselves. Let's start with Nothing. And Nothing you see here has 663,000 subscribers, 165 videos. Again, a little bit like Honeypot, that suggests that they've got fewer videos with very, very high views. It's exactly the case. If we switch over to here to see the most popular, you have the Nothing CEO reviews iPhone 14 Pro. Next up, Nothing CEO reviews OnePlus 11. Next up, Nothing CEO reacts to phone reviews. Next up, Nothing event, return to instinct. But you see those first three with well over 1 million views are all entirely the same format. So you have Nothing CEO reacts to something. And there you have firstly, this credibility building factor with the CEO there, obviously super knowledgeable about all these different products, giving his insights, which is pretty rare to kind of be able to peek behind that curtain. And then you have this association, which is super important when it comes to people searching and people browsing on YouTube. Whenever the iPhone XYZ 14, 15, 16 is released, obviously you have a lot of buzz around it. So inserting the Nothing CEO here is super clever because you can kind of surf that wave, that trend, to get a lot of traffic and a lot of interest. Also very entertaining, also credibility building, and also it positions them a little bit kind of head to head versus these much larger companies. But because it's the Nothing content, it puts them on a bit more of an equal footing. So super intelligent strategy. It's not the only strategy they have, but it is the one that's really driven the growth of the channel. The other one that they have is really bringing in some of the tech influencers. So you have, for example, Casey Neistat in there. You have quite a few different familiar faces from the tech scene. And so they're being super clever about the way that they've been scaling this channel. Another thing that I really like, and I don't think we really have time to dig into it too much, but just the productions themselves are super kind of YouTube first. So you have these kind of interview formats that you can see now, which just feels like you're kind of in the room with the people themselves. You have a lot of smartphone footage as people are walking around, walking from one office to another, and then it switches suddenly to kind of high production value studio setting, and it just all feels very kind of dynamic and fun. And you get this impression of the company that it's exactly that it's kind of dynamic and fun. So just a very cool channel. I can't really condense or summarize all the things that you can learn from it in this video just because there's so much, but definitely go and check it out. So let's scroll back and reach and engagement. Let's measure that. Strategy consistency. I mean, both 5 stars. It's pretty extraordinary. Super smart strategy. Something that they've just done repeatedly. So even though they're kind of getting the CEO at very important meetings to do these YouTube videos, they're managing to do it on a consistent basis, and they obviously recognize the value behind it as well. Full funnel formats and marketing mix integration. So let's take a quick look at how Nothing is doing there. It's a little bit different to the others because it's this kind of hardware company. Has 1 million followers on Instagram. It's obviously going to have great performance across all the socials. You can kind of guess that. Then what I would say and what I've noticed is that they don't kind of cover the basics, and you can kind of forgive them because they're so good on the strategy and the brand side of things, but they don't have kind of clever chaptering that's going to help the video a little bit better and or a little bit more across all the different distribution channels on YouTube. And they don't have any kind of funnel either. Again, not too surprising for a hardware product, and maybe it's only a small percentage uplift that they could hit on revenue if they had this kind of thing because it's such a branding heavy channel. But again, a little bit of a shame for me coming more from this kind of performance background and coming from this background with very slim budgets in order to scale companies. Finally, if we look at Meta, then no surprises, a ton of different ads for all the new phones and all for the tech products they're producing. A huge number of visits, again, not surprising. And I think if you scroll down here, you see again, YouTube is the biggest referrer, Twitter, their second biggest one, and then Instagram. Interestingly, more followers on Instagram, but much, much lower traffic coming through Instagram. So you can really see, again, it's one thing that I would leave you with in this video is that YouTube is the king of referrers amongst the social channels. And then if you scroll over to Ahrefs and you look at their organic traffic, you see that everything is pretty much coming through those branded terms. So it's all brand, new products, new tech products. That's what people search for, the Nothing Phone 2, the Nothing Phone 1, the Nothing EarPods, all those kinds of things. And so you can see why when they're in that space, they really want to kind of pitch themselves in or get involved in this conversation around Apple products as well, so that they're mentioned in the same sentence. And finally, we have the Renaissance periodization channel that I alluded to before. And this is just astronomical in terms of the number of views it has. It has 1.9 million daily views. And if we switch over to the channel, you can kind of see why. So if we just search, or rather sort for the most popular videos, you can see that they all have well above 2 million views. And they were all released pretty recently, except for that very first one. And so just in 7 months or so, they've got millions and millions of views. And the kind of format is very, very similar to the one that we looked at with Nothing. So this is exercise scientist critiques or exercise scientist reacts to, and then to specific kind of influencers, fitness influencers, celebrities. He's basically evaluating their approach to fitness, how they train, etc. From his position as this very kind of knowledgeable and credible exercise scientist. So he's a professor of exercise science at a university. And he's also huge as well. Yeah, and so very similar approach, which is also interesting, and this is undoubtedly something you can take away. And as in previous videos, we said this is a really nice approach to kind of boost the views for that kind of more mid-funnel content. So you'll see all sorts of companies doing it in the future. So they have those super popular videos. What about if we just look at the most recent ones? So here you have much more kind of educational, entertaining videos around different areas of fitness and of training, all with these kind of hyper stylized, slightly AI influenced thumbnails as well. And you have like Get the Superman Body, the ultimate workout plan, top nootropics, I don't even know what that is, for boosting your brain power. And these videos are also getting really a significant number of views and are being released very, very frequently. So you almost have a daily release, and these daily releases have anywhere between 100,000 views all the way up to, hundreds of thousands of views. So extremely successful strategy that, again, just to touch on kind of the next area, is really full funnel as well. So if I was to rate this channel in terms of reach and engagement and strategy and consistency, super disciplined when it comes to the strategy and the consistency, very, very frequent releases, and the reach and engagement is probably near on unparalleled as well, even if it is fitness, and fitness tends to be very high traffic. So if we look at the next criteria, the full funnel formats and the marketing mix integration, how does that look? If you look on the homepage, then you see that things are really kind of categorized. You really sense a degree of discipline around these kind of series. And you really see that it's a good kind of mature mix of tutorial-oriented videos and these exercise scientists, these kind of React style videos as well. And then when you look at an individual video, again, you see that the chaptering, summaries, etc., there's not much focus on that. Again, probably because they're getting so much traffic from all the kind of browse sources. And then you see in the video, there are a couple of call outs to the app download, and then you hit the link in the description and you do hit this specific landing page for the app and for subscriptions. So there's a pretty kind of rapid funnel from watching the video to signing up as well. Then if you look at other channels that they have in terms of the marketing mix, again, kind of unsurprising, very strong performance on Instagram. But this is really, by the looks of it, a very kind of established operation. They have a lot of paid marketing as well, a lot of ads across Meta. And again, it's not an example of the company that's just going all in on organic. They really have quite a mature marketing mix. That said, if you look at the different sources, then it's all about YouTube. So YouTube is the standout channel in terms of driving traffic from social. Much more again than Instagram, despite the high number of followers there. So how would I rate it in terms of full funnel formats and marketing mix integration? Then marketing mix integration, I would say it seems to be the kind of pillar channel, the driving force, but really nicely integrated into all the other channels they have. And in terms of full funnel formats, yeah, maybe they could do a little bit around onboarding users onto the product, not just having this landing page with the paywall. But again, just with the volume of traffic and views on all those kind of things that they're receiving, it's really probably not remotely necessary. I imagine they're just drowning in new users at the moment, and you can really see their kind of organic traffic growth, which is all brand driven, entirely brand driven, has been pretty remarkable over the past, where are we going back to over here? Just like 2 years, basically. So super interesting company, super interesting case study of how to scale a company, YouTube first, and the kind of content that might be required to take you there. If we look at the kind of things that we can learn from it, then we really see an example of our high volume full funnel strategy. We see again this impact of the React content, something we should definitely be trying out, and a little bit of an inspiration for this video as well. But again, it could potentially be a bit more conversion oriented if I had to really nitpick. Yes, so that brings me to the end of this overview of 5 of the top company YouTube channels in the world right now. I think there are a lot of different things that we can take away from all those different channels, a lot of different things that we can learn, and a lot of interesting strategies that you could implement, whether it's the let's go down this route of documentaries or these React videos, or let's focus on search terms, whatever it might be, lots of interesting ideas there. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, like the video, subscribe, check out our free community for YouTube strategists, and I will see you next time.